Hey guys, welcome to today's live video. Today we're going to be talking about how can we have our team prepare for the SAT math prep and balance that with school, balance that with extracurriculars. We're going to talk about that because a lot of the students that I work with, we have a lot of they have a lot of extracurriculars and they're having a hard time balancing everything. So a question I get a lot is like, how do we balance this all, right? And still get a good score. Well, the good news is that if you're able to do this with the test, you're going to be able to do this when you guys go to college as well. So that's why we're going to be talking about this today. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about, right, is how my method, the Math Guru method, this is how we take our students and this is how we're able to give them the tools that they need so that they're able to balance everything. So the first thing that they can do to balance school, study for the SAT, and prioritize their extracurriculars is to, number one, help your teen identify what's the most important and what are they missing the most on the actual exam, right? And this can be for the other things as well. It doesn't have to be just for SAT, but diagnose their weaknesses on the SAT on whatever it is first, right? So that they don't spend too much time studying for things that they already know how to do. Okay, because rote learning or just doing problems for the sake of doing problems, that's the enemy of success. Because if you already spend if you spend 2 hours working on practice problems that you already know how to do, then you're sacrificing 2 hours of problems in which you don't know how to do, right? And what do you think is going to help your score more, right? So we want to make sure that we focus mostly on your focus mostly on and prioritize those questions that they don't know how to do as well. Okay. The second thing we do is we create a schedule and we stick with it. Okay. So the thing here is to actually create a realistic schedule so that it's easy to follow for your team. Okay. There's nothing worse than starting a schedule and being a little too overboard on it when you're actually planning it and then you're not able to follow it. Okay. So encourage your team to set a daily or a weekly schedule that includes time for schoolwork, SAT prep, and extracurriculars. Okay. My students, what they use is they call the time block strategy. Okay, where they dedicate around 45 to 60 minutes a day, around 3 to 5 days a week, just to studying for the SAT math section. Okay, or whatever there is the weakest at. Okay, again, going back to prioritizing the stuff that they don't know how to do. Okay, now 45 to 60 minutes a day is ample amount of time, right? If you guys can't find 45 to 60 minutes a day or 3 times a week, then you got to get your priorities straight, and that kind of leads me into step number three, right? Is use your downtime wisely. Okay, consistency is key here. Okay, by the way, to create your own schedule, what I recommend is using Google Calendar because it pings. You can collaborate with them, and it also pings their device as well. Okay, now to use your downtime wisely, make sure you teach your team to use to use their free periods at school, travel time, right? When they're not doing anything to catch up on reading or reviewing the concepts that they don't know how to do. Okay, now this only works if you keep dopamine eating activities to a minimum. Okay, so what I mean by dopamine eating activities, I mean TikTok scrolling, video games, right? Things that are unproductive. That it's okay to do a little bit of unproductive stuff every day, right? 1 to 2 hours a day is probably the maximum you should allow them to do that. Because imagine if the average screen time for students right now is around 6 hours. So imagine if you just cut that in half and they studied on, they started using that time to actually do the problems and do go over the concepts that they're struggling with the most. It's gonna be really beneficial for them. Okay. Every minute counts on this. Okay. And sometimes only if you can't if you can't make 45 minutes to 60 minutes a day to just to focus on things that are really important, then in college you're going to be in trouble anyway, right? But again, if you just cut down that screen time, cut down that unproductive work by half, then you already have a good formula for success. Okay. The fourth thing I recommend my students do is to stay organized. Now, a planner or digital calendar can really help your team keep track of deadlines, keep track of test dates, extracurricular commitments. Like I said, use Google Calendar. That's your best friend. And then Set a time to wake up, set a time to go to sleep, try to maintain as consistent as possible. Consistency is key here. Okay, so make sure you stay organized. The fifth thing that I have is kind of underrated, all right? I know we kind of talked about, okay, make sure that you're being consistent, make sure you're setting a time to schedule time to do your work. Now, also take breaks. Schedule times in which you're going to take a break. Okay, I was a victim of this. A lot of my students were victims of this. Remind yourself and remind your team that, hey, it's okay to take short breaks to recharge. Okay, what this actually does, it actually improves focus and it increases your productivity in the long run. Okay, my student athletes, what they use this Pomodoro technique, which is pretty much like 45 minutes, 45 minutes on, 15 minutes off, 60 minutes on, 15 minutes off. It doesn't matter as long as you break it up in a way that works for your team. But this way it encourages, healthy detachment from studying and prevents them from getting completely overwhelmed. Okay, now this is important. Do not use your phone during these study breaks. Do literally anything else. Read your book, talk to somebody, right? Have a meaningful human interaction with somebody. Doesn't matter what you really need to do, right? Just make sure you're not on the phone, on TikTok, stuff like that. You want your brain to be detached, right? Because, we spend way too much time, in our own heads. We don't know how to be quiet. You know what I'm saying? So again, make sure you block out time to rest, okay? Because I would rather have 1 to 2 hours of dedicated work, right? That's zoned in and focused, rather than 6 hours of prolonged work with not a lot of productivity, okay? And because you're too scatterbrained because you're not taking breaks, okay? Now, number 6 is the most important out of all of them. If you do not get number 6 correct, none of these doesn't matter. The rest of these isn't going to matter, okay? Is stay healthy. Make sure your teen is getting proper sleep, maintaining healthy relationship with family and peers. Make sure they're eating, drinking properly. And again, I want them to make sure they're avoiding dopamine sucking activities such as excessive TikTok, excessive video games, right? No gambling, stuff along that nature, okay? Again, if you don't get this part right, then forget about the rest of it. They're not going to do well if they don't have the proper healthy habits that they need, okay? So with the Math Guru method, guys, that's pretty much sums up, some of the philosophy of the Math Guru method. With this method, your team will learn how to tackle SAT math strategically. They're going to be able to balance that with school, and they're going to be able to balance that with their extracurriculars, okay? And they're going to have more time for everything in general because they planned out that time, okay? Now, by following these tips, they're going to be able to achieve a very healthy balance, okay? And they're going to be able to excel everywhere in their life, okay? Now, if you guys are ready to help your team conquer the SAT math section so that they can enjoy a well-rounded high school experience, all you guys need to do is send me a DM to learn more about the Math Guru method, and I can help you guys transform your teen's approach to the SAT. Okay, we want to maintain balance here. But yes, if you're interested in working with us a little bit deeper, feel free to give us a DM, or you can call us directly. All right, have a great rest of your day, guys. I hope this is helpful.